Happy Summer Friday, people. Braun dancing Erik Kratz and Cleveland's finest, the legend, who was back in town, Mr. Banana Ball, Jason Kipnis. Dude, good to see you. We've known about it for a while, so we did a good job keeping it a secret. But how you doing, dude? You got another knock. Look at you.
I can now finally say like my last at bat was a knock. So it was a hit by pitch before.
Better. That's better.
Official at bat, but now we're ending on a base hit, so I'll take it.
You could say this. So my last at bat was a hit by pitch, or my last plate appearance, whatever. And then you could say my last AB in Cleveland was a knock.
Well, that already was true. I'm actually very proud. I have a fun story of my last Cleveland at bat. That's when I broke my hamate bone and had to miss the last month of my last year in Cleveland. I broke in mid at bat, and still I was like, well, I know I'm done for the year. I'm finishing this at bat, and still doubled the broken hamate bone.
Dude, you went out on top in many ways.
The banana ball thing was just outstanding for me, because my one chance of going back after I was done playing there was with the Cubs in 2020. It was a COVID year, empty stadiums, no one was allowed in, so I never got the hat tip. So it was a nice full circle closure moment for me to show back and forth appreciation between me and the fans. They gave me the love, and I wanted to return it too. And so my heart was full. It was a great moment. It was a great night for me all around, and to have another chance to step in the box in Cleveland was fun.
That's awesome. You got the double ear flap helmet. You got the Darth Vader helmet on too. What's up with that? They know you're a big leaguer.
That's all they had. I wasn't too picky. I think I used a pitcher's bat. I went through like the Cleveland side back there to see what bats they had because I didn't bring my own. So they gave me batting gloves. They're awesome. They do such a good job with that. The Jesse, the owner of the Bananas, it's just him and his wife who run it. They are definitely a fans first industry that they're kind of paving the way for. They really only care, does this benefit the fans or not? That's what they ask their questions on, and they're very entertaining. They put on a great show. Kids will love it.
Was it loud? Was it loud when they gave you the standing O?
It was, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't know if I was doing it too long or not, but I didn't want to take away from the game, but apparently I wanted to soak it in and give each corner of the stadium its little tip, and it got loud. They were on their feet, and so it was very much appreciated.
That's awesome.
Did you see the lady in that clip that they went to in the crowd shot real quick when they were
going
calling your name? That was you didn't see that?
Which I'm not sure. No.
Maybe Gab can play it back.
Pressure on our superstar director Gab to see if we can do it, and obviously
she was going ham. I mean, she was getting into it. I don't know if she's a big banana fan or if she's a big Kip fan, but I'm gonna go a big Kip is a banana.
Here we go. Watch Kip. Watch this reaction.
Where am I looking?
At the screen. You see the screen?
It's pretty obvious. Just wait. Just wait for it. Yeah, Jason Kipnis. Keep that helmet on, though. We don't want to see all that thinness.
I had the hat head going. That was not a good.
Here it is. Really. Here it is, right here. You'll see it in next screen, I think. She's going hard. I mean, she is.
So the walkout I had is with the saxophones. By the end of it, it was known. They loved it. I loved it. They had inflatable saxophones down the right field line. There's like this little Kip corner. So they knew this song as soon as it started playing. It was such a cool moment for me. So something I'll never forget.
She was a little younger when she played, so you might have captured her heart when you were a player there, Kip.
It was not just the dancing. It was like the
she was
as if like your favorite band then just brought out your second favorite band and they're collabing for one song that you've never heard before or something like that. It was that level of passion that I really love. That's the good stuff from the fan experience.
The cooler tweets and messages and DMs that I got were I'm so happy I got to see like one more at bat of his, or he got the at bat that he needed or wanted this whole time. But then I got stuff where this lady was like, she's like, Jason got me into baseball and was one of my favorite players, and now I'm going to the games with kids, and I couldn't imagine that I get to show my kid who I wanted to, instead of being like, I got to show him live instead of just like a video of it. So seeing stuff like that is a special moment for them and for me. So that's awesome. Those were the coolest ones I got.
That's awesome. Stuff. I just got chills. Good for you, Kip.
Yeah, so it was a really special weekend for me.
Yeah, I love it. All right, that was a great breakdown. All right, so let's charge the mound. Let's get to a few big topics.
He's charging the mound.
Not a fun one to start. Could go in a different category, but it's a big name who was in the MVP discussion. Don't forget about it. Christian Yelich had that kind of re-breakout year. I'm not going to call it bounce back. It's not like he was bad, but he was just getting back to the level that he was at from years back. And he does it all, right? He runs. He plays good D. He obviously has the hit tool for days. The power was there. And he is done for the season. He was out for the second time here on the IL with a back issue, and he just did everything he could. He's got to get the surgery. So let's hear from the man himself, because I always appreciate when you get the firsthand experience from the athlete telling you what he's been going through.
It just got to the point where it wasn't getting better. Tried everything I could, ran out of options, and it came time to make a decision. So surgery is scheduled. Yeah, for Friday. This was the best option, that we really had left. It sucks, there's really no other way to put it other than it sucks. It's terrible, but it's part of sports. I think these things happen. You get hurt, you get fixed, and you get back out there. Try to stay as positive as possible about it. It's going to be for the best. It's a positive, short term, terrible, long term. It's going to be all right. It's so weird when you're hurt, you're on the team, but you feel like you're not, Yeah. You're kind of just there, you help out in any way you can. It's just you're not really in the grind with the guys and really have any impact on what's happening out there. But it's a great group of guys, and they're playing extremely well, and happy to watch them and see what they're going to do, and hopefully they can win the division and the playoffs. And then once you're in the postseason, it's who knows what's going to happen. You get hot, and it could be a cool run. So excited for them, and hopefully they can pull it off, and I think they'll be just fine.
Somebody who is one of my friends, somebody who is super laid back. You hear him, he's like, yeah, it sucks. They'll pull it out. He plays like that, except the difference is what they're going to miss. Yes, all his production. Yes, his ability to go out there and change the game. They're going to miss the fact that dude posts every day. And I'm saying that about a guy that's having surgery, so he's not posting today. But the fact that he goes out there, and if other guys don't go out there, it's those guys feel bad about it. I saw how Ryan Braun, who wouldn't necessarily be able to play every day because he had back issues when we were playing all together. All three of us were playing together. And Yelich would be out there every day, and it kind of made Brawny hey, wait, no. I'm going to stay out there. He wanted to be out there for his 9 innings. He didn't make it every 9 innings, but so Yelich, the way that he plays, the way that he just goes about his business without telling anybody, hey, this is how we're going to do it, everybody follows him. So it sucks. And I hope someone else can step up to be that leader that's out there on the field every day, because that's what Yelich brought.
I agree with that. I'm going to echo that. If you're MVP who is playing every day and having a good year, that's a tough loss right there, because there's people who lead by stats, there's people who lead by example, and he was doing both. You hate to see a guy go down, and you hate to see it be one of the better guys in the league. It's tough. It's going to be tough on them. He's absolutely right on this, where when you're hurt, you feel like you're not on the team. It doesn't have to be that way. And I'd like to see him lead the front charge of that to kind of change that. Because if you're not coming back, you can put in a little request. You're going to get your rehab and stuff done before the rest of the guys come to the stadium and all that. But hang around the cage as much as you can. Hang around the guys. Keep the thing going that you're already there every day. Keep that kind of feeling going for the guys, and keep talking, hitting with them and all that stuff, and be approachable on all that. And I think he will. It sucks though, because you never want to see someone like this go down, especially for a team that's in first place, I think. So they're going to feel this loss. So, but if you're having surgery, it's obviously a serious injury, and he needs to get it done.
Yeah, back is no joke. And he was an extra coach, mentor, the whole deal, in addition to being the best player on the team, for the first few months of the season, and an MVP candidate. And I remember, I think it was him, he dropped a bunt down there. He was leading team pregame bunting drills. Like it was just nonstop Yelich impact. He is that guy now. Like he is truly a veteran amongst very, very young players like the Bryce Terangs of the world. And the Brewers are going through that kind of youth movement with a pretty good farm system that's been graduating players to the bigs. The one part I'll disagree with him really hard on is he's like, oh, I think they'll be fine without me. They won't. They'll be fine. Will they be World Series winners? Probably not. Like you need everything to go right if you're a team like Milwaukee to win a World Series. In my mind. No, Kratz, you disagree? I mean, you think they're going to win a World Series this year? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, you need that. Yeah, like you can't have the season where Yelich goes down and you're not going to have that kind of bat in the playoffs. That's my opinion, because it's not like they're going to blow the world away with their starters. I know they just had a really nice series against the Dodgers, but I think that's the part that I'll disagree with. Obviously, I know what he's saying, but I'm saying, dude, they're going to miss you.
I don't think they're going to miss him a ton for sure. But unless you can say, well, this is why they were winning in the first half, because they didn't have Devin Williams. You're talking about losing guys. They didn't have Brandon Woodruff. They didn't have Corbin Burns. Devin Williams was down. They didn't have Wade Miley, who was going to step in. Like, to say they're not going to win the World Series right now on August 16th, you have to be able to tell me how have they been winning up until August 16th. If you can tell me, well, this is why they've been winning, if it's because of Christian Yelich, then okay, maybe. But like they've been winning despite all of their injuries and everybody counts them out. Why isn't it different in the playoffs?
Their division sucks. No, I'm kidding. Kind of. I mean, the NL Central's a dud this year, I am saying. The Brewers are good, though. I mean, I'm just saying, he adds whatever you want to call it, but it's value. He gives you a few percentage points at least in terms of your chances to win a World Series. Anyone can kind of win a World Series once you get to October to an extent, but I still think Milwaukee doesn't have it to win the World Series, to win it all, but we'll see what happens. All right, we'll step aside. We'll talk to Ken Rosenthal, FT Senior Insider, coming up next. A little inside scoop when we come back. Later on, we're going to talk to Weston Wilson, who I'm excited to chat with. He's coming off the cycle. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, so I figured this is good for just our first little break. You guys like cycles? Are they big? Are they big amongst the players as well? Because Kip, you weren't here yesterday, but we talked about how Shea Langoliers didn't know, or claims he didn't know, that he was a triple shy, and then he bopped one into the corner in his last AB. It was fumbled out there, and there was a chance that he could have turned that into a triple, and it was the situation to do so. And he said that's why he didn't do it. No one told him, and he didn't know.
No one's supposed to tell you. You should just know. You should know what kind of game you're having. Kratz, I saw a little head nod at the very end. I think they're big deals. They're not as they're great games. They're phenomenal games, and they're just cool. A weird stat one where you get 4 hits, because a lot of guys have 4-hit games, but to do it of each kind, to get one of those, it's unique. So it's not as rare as like the no-hitters or anything like that, but it's definitely a fun thing to know about, and kind of surprising. It's like when you have a 3-hit game and you're sitting there, you're like, oh man, I have 2 extra base hits already or something. You're like, well, which one I don't have? Your wheels are usually turning. It's a little surprising that Langoliers didn't know that or talk about it. So I don't know.
It's a straight, but 4 of a kind's better.
Do you think like you said you shouldn't talk about it? If somebody's anything short of a cycle, like you definitely talk about it.
No, he's saying like nobody told me. I don't think I was like nobody's supposed to tell you. Like it's not a no-hitter where you can't speak about it. I'm saying it's like
okay.
In charge of telling you what your stat line. You should know what you're doing that night, or it's like it should be obvious. Yes, it should be talked about. I just meant like there's no like no-hitter where you can't speak its name or something like that.
He's a catcher. He's busy. Do you think there's any, because AJ was like, no chance he didn't know. And I'm like, do you think there's any chance that he's like focused on the billion pitchers that the A's are shuffling through and that he didn't just think, oh, wait, I actually had single, double, and homer already?
I say a fast no because I give Kratz and other catchers, they're so locked in with their daily routine. They know what they're trying to do and what their pitchers are trying to do. And they're also just athletes and baseball players, and they're going out and playing the game that they can handle two thoughts at once. They're fine. They should know that they're one hit away.
Catchers don't get enough hits to forget that they've had 3 hits in one game.
Inside Scoop time with Ken Rosenthal back on the road for some games. We'll get into that in a little bit. Our FT Senior Insider joining us. You can check out Fair Territory, which he put together yesterday. I was on there. It was nice to be on there to fill in for Alana. But anyway, Ken, let's get into your latest notes column. We'll take a couple points from it, but encouraging everyone to check it out in The Athletic and get a subscription. Can I start with what you led off with and Garrett Crochet, the pursuit from the Phillies and the Dodgers? And were you surprised it got to that point? Uh-oh, Ken, hold on. That's not just me, right?
Yeah.
He's a little low.
Funny. We'll do a retee. Hold on.
Yeah. Did you lose your voice?
He could clearly he's far from the mic. He could clearly hear you.
Hold on. Not far.
It's coming in. We're coming in. All right. Quick retee. We got you now, but Ken, yeah, we're talking about Garrett Crochet, the Phillies and the Dodgers, and also how they didn't end up forking up the very tippy-top prospects in their org to go after someone like Crochet. So I think there's a lot to the story. Good to go? Let's test. You good, Ken?
How's it sound? Any better?
Is
this better?
No? Not great yet. We might have to. All right, let's chat.
Hold on here. How about this?
Oh,
there we go.
Hey, yep, that's better.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
For some reason, my mic is faltering. I'm going with the computer mic. All right. Now, to answer the question, what I reported was that the Phillies and Dodgers were in as late as the final 24 hours, and that the Dodgers were still talking to the White Sox in the final hour. Now, you might say, well, why were they doing that, knowing that he would want an extension to pitch in the postseason? That was very much public. And the reason is his talent. And the teams that were looking at him not just for this year, when who knows what they were going to get one way or the other. It's his first year starting. But for 25 and 26, when the fact of the matter is you'd be getting an ace starter at reasonable arbitration salaries, combined probably about $15 million max in those 2 years. And he's a guy who has pitched like an ace this year. So for that reason, those teams stayed in, and you can understand why they stayed in. Now, why did it happen? It didn't happen simply because the White Sox did not get the package that they wanted. And you might say, well, how high were they aiming? My understanding is pretty high. And you can understand why they were aiming pretty high. Here's a guy making $60,000 above the minimum. He's pitching like an ace this year. You got the 2 more years coming. And that's a pretty rare thing in the market. And basically, in the opinion of others in the industry, the White Sox were not out of line to ask for a team's very best prospect. Now, they didn't get it, but maybe in the offseason they'll try again. In fact, I expect they will try again.
Did you get all this information only after the deadline, or were you hearing some things like that, or were you just hearing the teams?
I was hearing some things before the deadline, Erik, but I don't hold back when I get stuff. So I continued pursuing it in the final or in the last week or so. And one reason I continued pursuing it was Jason Stark, who you guys had on yesterday. He heard right after the deadline, this was right after, that there were some big prospect names thrown around, that the White Sox could have made a deal, that this was more serious and close than we thought. And I made a mental note to myself to check back on that when I got back from vacation, and that's what I did.
Ken, question for you, because I think a bunch of us are sitting there scratching our heads at the deadline where the White Sox should have should have had the high asking price for a bunch of their prospects, whether it was Crochet or Luis Robert or anything like that. Why does it feel, I'm going to switch it up just a little bit, why does it feel like they kind of settled on what they took for Fetty and the other deals and why did they come down on that asking price instead of these other ones?
That's a great question, Jason. A lot of people in the game are asking that question, that when you trade Fetty and Tommy Pham, why are you only getting what you got back in return? Miguel Vargas and 2 minor leaguers. That to me is still something that we're going to have to judge in the years to come. We'll see how these players perform for the White Sox, whether they do really well or not. But it was, in the estimation of some, a very low return or a light return, put it that way. And as I always say, these things are hard to judge in the moment because we don't know how these players are going to perform. Maybe that trade looks better over time. Maybe it looks worse. But
Sure.
It was interesting that you had Fedde, who was very much in demand. He hasn't pitched that well for St. Louis, but at the time, he was, I don't know, one of the top 3 or 4 starters available. Flaherty was ahead of him. Crochet was ahead of him. Snell, if you want to count him, sure. But Fedde was, along with Zach Eflin, in that next group. So they could have maybe done a better deal, but they chose what they chose. And again, over time, we'll see how that plays out.
From the White Sox to the Marlins, Ken, I want to ask you about Sandy Alcantara. Obviously, his name hasn't come up for the most part this year because he's been recovering from Tommy John surgery. We saw the tweet yesterday from Craig Mish saying the team actually informed him that he won't be traded in the offseason. Is that normal? And also, is that like a Steve Nash alley-oop to Amari Stoudemire? Maybe I'm dating myself a little bit because, I don't see trades often with Tommy John guys coming back, even of his ilk. If they stink and it's May, it could be a rise again, no?
Absolutely, it could be. And it's awfully charitable of the Marlins to inform Sandy Alcantara that they're not going to trade him. His value is down. Of course, they're not going to trade him. But the moment his value starts building back up again after he returns next season, yes, they've got 2 more years at pretty good money. I think it's 16, 17 million a year. Of course, they're going to entertain it. So that report, of course, it was a fair report, reasonable to report that. But from the Marlins' perspective, I was thinking, okay, great. You're not going to trade a guy coming off Tommy John. Congratulations.
Are the Marlins getting close? If they do that in May next year, Alcantara comes back and he gets traded, are they at risk of being investigated for the similar thing that like the Pirates were investigated for not competing? Because it is a stark just tear down of everything. If you go and trade that pitcher who could actually help your team in some way, or am I completely off on that?
No, not at all. They were one of the teams named in that Players Association grievance, along with the Pirates, the A's, and the Rays, if I'm not mistaken. Now, that grievance has not gone anywhere. It's several years old now. But you can make the case that, yes, they are not spending to the level that they should be, considering the revenue sharing they're receiving. The other side of that, Erik, is that they've accumulated a lot of talent. And the way the game is, as much as we don't like it, but the way it goes is that basically teams are allowed, I guess is the right word. I don't know. Maybe that's not the right word, but they operate in a way that they can just basically be free in how they go about it. So maybe the Marlins could make the case, yeah, we're doing this, we're tearing down, but look at all the talent we've collected, and now we're going to build back up again. Teams have the right to operate basically however they want. Now, the Players Association can file a grievance when they feel these teams are not spending to the level that they should be, but it's kind of hard to prove that, as we've seen. It hasn't been established yet. When you have a team like them, or like the Orioles a few years ago, kind of just collecting talent and looking for a better day. I don't like what the Marlins did coming off a playoff appearance. I hated it, but this is the route they're choosing, and we'll see where it goes.
All right. Talked about it yesterday with Jason Stark about the double hook and the 6-inning rule. Where do you sit on it in the sense of how close are we to implementing something? And I know I'm really broad stroking because Rob Thompson just said last night after reacting to the article, he said, well, it has to be something that's instituted in the minor leagues before it's instituted in the big leagues. How close are we to moving in that direction?
I don't sense that we're all that close, Erik. And yes, Rob Thompson made a good point that something like that, the 6-inning rule in particular, would have to be phased in over time. You can't just go 0 to 100 with these things. And the double hook, to me, you could implement that tomorrow. And I don't know that it would be a detriment to anyone. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. But as we both know, the sport moves slowly. And for all the talk about these dramatic changes that were in effect last year, implemented last year, it took a long time to get to that point. So I don't expect anything to happen soon. Right now, Major League Baseball is conducting a study on the health of starting pitching and how to keep pitchers healthy in general. I imagine they want that to be kind of completed before they go forward here. But all of these things that have come up, first when Jason and I wrote in May about this, and then, of course, yesterday when Jesse Rogers from ESPN wrote his story, these are ideas that are kind of percolating. And there is seemingly a consensus that the sport does need to revive the starting pitcher. I don't know that anyone would argue that for the sake of entertainment. Now, it might not be the best way to win a game in the present circumstances. You might say, I'd rather have my guy go 4 innings than bring in my parade of 95-mile-an-hour relievers. Okay, that might be the best way to win a game, and that's the way front offices have to operate. It's not necessarily the best product. And as Jason pointed out yesterday, and as we wrote in that story in May, it used to be the question every fan asked before going to a game was, who's pitching tonight? Now that question has been diminished.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hope it gets solved, but we'll have a lot of time in the offseason to hit it too. And he's right. I mean, man, we were talking 10 years ago about the pitch clock, and then it finally came to play, last season. So, all right, let's get back to the field. Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
You just said it was like so many years ago. You looked at, okay, it's a starting pitcher. Well, so many years ago, there was the game of the week was on. Now we live in a generation of, I want this now for 10 minutes. I want to do that. I want this. So isn't the game kind of shifting with like, hey, I just want the best pitcher. I want to see most velocity, hardest swings, go get them. In a sense, you saying it there.
Erik, no question, it shifted to that. My question in response would be, is this the best product? Now, for people who like swing and miss and who like seeing guys throwing 95 and blowing out, yeah, it may be the best product. I don't know that ultimately it is the best way to keep your fans engaged to the highest level. Certainly fans are engaged now. The sport is doing fine. But the starting pitcher and the role of the starting pitcher, the stud guy on the mound, hopefully for 6, 7, 8 innings, that's kind of disappeared. And I do believe something has been lost in this transition to where we are now.
It's disappeared, but hasn't it been then doesn't it mean more when you have one of those guys who consistently goes 6, 7, 8 innings instead of forcing it? That becomes a luxury then. Hey, we got guys who can save the bullpen arms and go back so we have a bullpen game the next day or have our full strength the next day. I feel like it's a luxury to try to force it to happen or to make guys go. The knee-jerk reaction is that it's not about health, that it's not going to be hey, we're going to hang this guy out to dry when he doesn't have his good stuff, or if he comes out early, it's always going to have to be an injury or something like that. Or I don't know. It feels like you're forcing something that doesn't need to be there. And this might not be the best way to solution. I think just starting pitchers getting better and stretching them out and worrying less about velo and maybe still a little bit more about pitching, I think is the answer forward instead of trying to create a rules. That's just mine.
Jason, you have a great point there, and I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. The problem is to get to where you're talking about, stretching out starting pitchers and bringing the game back to that way it was before, you might have to legislate it because the teams are going to operate the way teams operate, trying to max out every night with their bullpens and best stuff available, and you're not going to have the starting pitcher emphasized under this current condition that the game is in. To get the game to that point, just as with the pitch clock, you had to have the pitch clock because the players just would not abide by what was trying to be enforced by the umpires. Well, you might need to put something in effect here to enhance the role of the starting pitcher. Now, again, as Jesse wrote, there would have to be qualifiers. You'd have to have, 100 pitch limit. If a guy is struggling in the 4th inning, you'd have to get guys out of games if you needed to. It wouldn't be an absolute hard and fast, you have to pitch 6 innings. But at the same time, it's an idea worth exploring, as all of these different proposals are. And I know a lot of people, and Jason, maybe you're one of them, feel there's been too much change in the game and we should just calm down a little bit. And there's something to be said for that. I get that argument completely. I just again believe from an entertainment standpoint, not from a competitive standpoint, entertainment, drawing fans in, making your game more attractive, bringing back the Scherzers and the Verlanders and making those guys, well, getting more of them, that would be something in the game's interest.
Doesn't that diminish the role of the manager then real quick if they always have their best guys available and all this stuff? Like, because then you're losing the risk and the decision-making of the top managers where how can they juggle a bullpen? How can they – which guys to play on this day knowing they have this guy tomorrow? If you always have, like, your best guys going or something like that, it's – what's the point of a manager kind of?
Well, I would suggest that the role of the manager is already diminished.
I hear you.
The front office is calling a lot of the shots. So where we go, it doesn't matter.
Touche.
Yes, man.
All right, lastly, let's finish with this. You got Cardinals and Dodgers this weekend. You know, I know we addressed the Cardinals. You talked about them yesterday on Fair Territory, so maybe we can go on the Dodgers side, but go wherever you want to go if you have something to share with us. I mean, I think the main point here is you got to win the division first, or you would think. I don't think the Dodgers are going to be very pleased if they end up as a wild card, maybe even without home games if they fall out of that round.
I don't expect they would be pleased either, but considering their performance as a bye team the last couple of years, maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So, again, they don't want to lose the division. They obviously want to win the division. It's down to 2 games. The Diamondbacks and Padres are red hot. Can they sustain this, both those teams, the rest of the season? That remains to be seen. And the Dodgers are getting healthier. They're in a situation where Muncy and Edman are going to come back with bets already there. So I expect they're going to play well down the stretch. Maybe not well enough, but we'll see. And what's interesting for the Dodgers is all that matters, and we've talked about this all season, guys, is October. And what is the best path for them in October? I would suggest it's not going through 4 rounds, it's going through 3, considering where their pitching has been all season long. But it's going to be a really interesting stretch drive. And the Dodgers bullpen, it's going to get better in the weeks ahead too, and Trinan comes back and Brazier comes back, but that's been a question. So it's kind of a fascinating thing right now to see where they are in comparison to those other 2 teams. And from the Cardinals' perspective, they're facing a tough part of their schedule now, obviously starting with the Dodgers, and they've got the Brewers and the Padres. This is make it or break it for them. And they cannot afford to dilly around anymore. They're under 500. They're the 3rd worst run differential in the National League, which is astonishing to me. Worst run differential than the Nationals. And they're a team that has been an extreme disappointment. I don't expect things are going to change much for them in the weeks ahead. So they're going to face some really difficult questions at season's end if the season does not get any better for them. Because I looked this up the other day. This is amazing to think about. This would be, if this happens, the first time they've had back-to-back losing seasons in full campaigns, not strike interrupted or COVID interrupted or anything like that, since 1958-59. Haven't had back-to-back losing seasons in full seasons since then. That tells you about where they are.
That is incredible. Yeah, Cardinals fans should be like, wow. I mean, look at what we've done for a long time. You're spoiled. And on the Dodgers side, Ken, you know, I just thought about when you said that, the NBA has had times in the last 2 decades where you buy a super team and then you win and you're a dynasty and all that, and you kind of know what's going to happen. MLB has super teams, and they have definitely a much lower percentage chance of winning a World Series, let alone putting 2 together.
Well, to revive an old argument, this is why when fans scream and yell about the Dodgers spending too much money or the Yankees spending too much money, I always think, no, it's fine. These teams aren't guaranteed to win. That's first of all. And the second part of that is when you have a Cleveland or a Milwaukee, to me, it is that much more satisfying when those other teams go down and you're there. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, and I'm not saying the sport is in a perfect economic situation where there's balance. No, there's not. We know there's not economic balance. There's too much disparity. I get it. But with where we are now, if I were a fan of one of those teams, one of the smaller market teams that's having such success, I'd be loving every second of it.
Yeah, the underdog story. It's so cool. The storylines are great. They're unique, and it's not predictable. So, Ken, enjoy the weekend. We'll watch you on Fox, Cardinals, and Dodgers on Saturday, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal, hosting Fair Territory Mondays and Thursdays. Thursdays are live with Alana Rizzo, who will be back in the seat on Thursday, 12:30 Eastern time for that one. Monday gets released usually around 12:30 as well on YouTube and wherever you get your pods. Be right back. figured let's stay right here for the YouTube fam for a moment. First off, subscribe to the Foul Territory YouTube channel. I can't talk today, and the pod, but also Kip, just to continue the combo on the pitching rules. Do you like anything out there in particular? Do you think the double hook would work? There's parts of it that I really like, and this has come up for the last few years because Jason Stark has written about it. He brought up the downside, and the downside is what scares me. You won't have a David Ortiz in the 8th or 9th inning, right? Having the most crazy moments. I also just like the DH in general. Like, we need offense, and some of the best hitters can't play the field well. What about Shohei Ohtani? I mean, unless you'd have to put him in the outfield. Otherwise, you can eliminate his position in a game if you're the Dodgers. I know the Dodgers are going to be voting against this. I
absolutely agree with the downside of that. Double hook, I'm guessing, is just the old NL rule, just to clarify for myself and fans, basically, that they're out before the 5th and you lose the DH. Do I have that right?
Yeah, if the pitcher's out. What do you mean by old NL rule? Like, you get back to having no designated hitter and the pitcher is in the spot. Yeah.
So, I'm just for starting pitchers figuring it out and being stretched out instead of just trying to throw as hard as they can for 4 innings. That's why I think when you find the guy, when you have a Paul Skeens who does it but also pitches, you should be rewarded for having those guys, or for creating them, or for developing them rather, instead of just trying to have everyone be on the same that way. I think you should be lucky to find guys who can save your bullpen arms and all that stuff. I feel like we're trying to make something that doesn't need to be there yet, I guess, but that's my personal opinion on it. I'm still learning all the ideas about it, so I will be the full transparency on that one as well.
No, that's fine. And Kratz, I'm a big disagree on what the modern fan wants. The modern fan wants storylines and spice now more than ever. You know, if you say Paul Skeens is pitching tonight, that matters. That draws me. If you say you're going to see all these dudes throwing 100, I'm like, who are they? What's their name? What's their story? Right? That's less appealing.
I got 2 things. It's less appealing. There is only a handful of Max Scherzers, Clayton Kershaws. That's why they're going to the Hall of Fame. That's why Paul Skeens has created this. You can't expect a team to have 5 Paul Skeens. But if you give them an incentive, maybe they'll create more guys. So you need to incentivize the teams.
Yep, I like that.
Good way to look at it.
That's a good way to start out Hot Corner. There's a good AL MVP race going on between Bobby Witt Jr. and Aaron Judge. We can cue the tweet here because we don't have the video, but we don't catch everything. So sometimes we rely on the hard workers on social media. They're not always accurate, but according to MKG Sports on the Royals broadcast, they just said if Aaron Judge played for the Royals instead of the Yankees this season, he'd have 29 home runs instead of the 42 he has playing in a little league park. Here is the true MVP. You can also tell where the allegiance is based on that little profile picture. You see the profile?
Yeah.
See who's in there? It's Pat Mahomes.
He's a Chiefs fan. So Bobby Witt plays for the Chiefs?
Yeah. Now, there's parts to this story because I wanted to find it, but I couldn't see it either anywhere. I'm like, okay, I wanted to hear what they said. Did they just mention, where his home runs would go in Kauffman Stadium based on StatCast metrics? Like, where is the juice behind this? But also the fact that Fangraphs projections, Kip, said that Juan Soto would only hit 33 home runs because Yankee Stadium would suppress his power. He's already at 33 home runs. So how'd that go?
Why on earth would Fangraphs say that?
That's their Zips model. That's what it said.
Because he only had hit 35 before. 35 was his career high. So they were like, well, this is the most he could do, even based on park adjustment.
Do I think that park adjustment is a real thing? I do. I think he absolutely benefits from playing in that. Do I think that's – if you're going to open that can of worms, now you're opening then how many times does Bobby Witt get to face the White Sox? How many times – look at the Visions comparison. Look at there's so many away games too. Are all of Judge's home runs at home? No, they're not. So, listen, I think Judge right now is I don't think anybody would argue that he's the clear number one. I think if Kansas City was a little bit higher in the standings, which they're getting there, I think, and playing more, I think it's a lot closer than people give it to, because I'm such a Bobby Witt fan, where instead of like you compare Judge's intentional walks that he gets to Bobby Witt's stolen bases and defense that he plays. So I think it is closer, but I don't think anybody's taking Bobby Witt over Judge right now.
Does anybody give him a vote? Or is it, if it ends today, is it a unanimous? Is it unanimous Aaron Judge? No.
I think no. It's because a lot of writers go off a lot of numbers these days, right? Because they just have a hard time quantifying things. And
so
Bobby's
what number?
playing a premium position for a team that was terrible the last few years. I know that Judges too. I got you. I know. Shortstop gets. I'm just saying, shortstop gets merit too. It's not like, there's I would still say the shortstop gets the edge versus the center field / corner / DH. No,
but it's not like Bobby Witt's playing Gold Glove defense. Like, he's got like a 1.5 WAR. I don't think he's the highest at shortstop. Like,
he's
it's not
really,
like
really good, dude. He's sick.
He ain't a liability.
He's not a lot. No, I'm not saying we're talking about MVPs. We're talking about MVPs. I'm not saying like he needs something that is going to push him over. If he's playing platinum shortstop glove,
he is.
We're talking about he's the best. He's the best shortstop in the league right now.
Okay, so one of my favorite actual stats that I really do like and believe in is what? Outs above average, right? Because I watch enough. Okay, so let's go over the outs above average leaders for all of baseball right now. Okay, Jacob Young is number one. No, Jacob Young's number one. You often get center fielders, and Jacob Young is sick. We have not talked about him enough just because the Nats aren't relevant right now. Number 2 is a tie between Marcus Semien and Bobby Witt Jr. Both 16 outs above average. So
that's where he'll get his vote.
Say Bobby Witt Jr. has been nasty at shortstop, and I would agree that this is the best shortstop we've seen from him, and he is an elite top 3 shortstop defensively in the game right now. So, Kip, my point is when you have the numbers, and his Fangraphs WAR is, I think last I checked, identical or very close to Judge.
7.9,
right?
8.2. Yep.
8.4.
Well, no, that's Baseball Ref. Fangraphs, it's 8.6 for Judge, 8.3 for Witt. So that's about the same. And Ellie De La Cruz is leading the NL. Anyway. What? Wait, I missed you. I was laughing too hard. What?
Time that you just said of their wars.
Fangraphs says 8.6 for Judge, 8.3 for Witt. The Yankees might not make the playoffs without Judge. I don't even know, right? I mean, they didn't have him for half of last year, so you can't totally use that story. But the Royals making the playoffs with Bobby Witt playing like this will certainly get him some first-place votes, in my mind.
It's 8.6 to 8.3, and then we just got the defensive WAR. Judge is minus 0.7 and Witt's 1.5. So that actually, like, to me, you combine those, puts him above it. So it's not like –
No, this is total WAR, though.
When you ask unanimous and all that stuff, I'm just like, it's not unanimous at all.
To me, that defense pushes it to not be unanimous.
Exactly.
So then the question is, all this discussion to talk about what does Bobby Witt need to do, because he almost hit 500 in the month of July. What does he need to do to surpass Judge here in the last month and a half?
Keep going. Same thing.
Yeah, kind of.
He's got to do more. Like Judge's got 1,100 OPS right now. What does Bobby Witt need to do? Keep going, another 500 month?
That wouldn't hurt him.
I mean, that would very much help. But you're saying to win or to get votes?
To win it. Who cares if you get votes? He's getting votes. He's second place.
Right now, yes, he's second place. And right now, if they both kept going at the paces they're going, Aaron Judge will win.
Right.
Well, if he kept going and Aaron Judge falls off a little bit, Bobby Witt needs to be – it's going to be a lot closer vote than you think. And don't undersell the luxury of having a Juan Soto next to you in the lineup that I don't think Witt has.
So you think that will diminish – like if their numbers start getting closer, then you're saying because Judge has Juan Soto, then that might take some votes away.
A few, because they're a product of a great lineup. I think maybe not. I think taking away from Judge is not the right way to word it. I think awarding Witt for doing it without that is the better way to look at it.
Okay.
Agreed. I mean, obviously Salvi's had a nice year, but the line of protection on one side versus the other is still glaring.
Yeah.
There's been times where you look and you're like, it's only Judge and Soto. Obviously right now you're getting, Giancarlo's back and Jazz was good for a week. But I think, with Kansas City, what?
Soto's in front of him in the order?
Yeah.
The guy is, what's his on base? So Judge is always hitting with someone on base.
Yeah, you always it's pressure spots for the pitcher. I'm with you. And actually there's been plenty of articles written about how lineup protection is not real by the numbers. And I think it's total garbage. I've read there's plenty. I'll send you a couple. I've read some smart people that I like try to do research on it and say that it's not really a thing. I'm like, you're wild, because every meeting, Kratz, goes over a player and how you're going to approach them. No, I mean, give us a quick sec on this and why it matters.
It matters because you have to be able to execute pitches to guys in the lineup, and you never get a breath when a lineup is absolutely dominant. Like, look at the Dodgers lineup. You're not getting a breath until right now, 5th or 6th in the order. Yeah, you might mix in there, oh, this guy doesn't face my slider very well. This guy doesn't handle the heater up. But you can't just like heater up, heater down, breaking ball, this, that. You got to have elite stuff to go through lineups that are deep and protected. And the Yankees are deep and protected. Like Juan Soto should be, I'm thinking, number 3 in MVP voting.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that hurts you. We've talked about that, in past years where you have 2 really good players and sometimes they can cancel each other out. So good debate. Let's get to Yu Darvish. He's working out. John Heyman with the report. And this, of course, would help the Padres because he's been out for a minute. He also said he thinks the Padres will pursue Blake Snell in the offseason, assuming he does not stay with the Giants, which I also thought was interesting. Of course, Blake was just there and pitched really well. He was Cy Young Award winner. But thoughts on the Padres right now, Kip? Because the Diamondbacks have made a surge. They're the hottest team in baseball. The Padres, though, are probably 1B or 2 since the second half began.
They're playing some awesome baseball. I think that we'd be talking about them even more so if it wasn't for the guys in their own division being the one team that's hotter than them. So they are playing some inspired baseball right now. You are not comfortable if you're in a Dodgers uniform right now. And it's fun to watch as a fan because it's the first time in a long time that they haven't been. Normally they're up like double-digit game lead right now and can coast kind of into the playoffs. So it'll be very fun to see that not only have 1, but 2 teams on their heels. And you're almost like you got nothing to lose kind of if you're both of these teams, if you're the Diamondbacks and the Padres. So I think the Padres are playing some great baseball. Isn't it weird, though, that it's like they let go of Snell, they let go of Soto. Like they don't have that big, huge amount of money lineup anymore. They still got, obviously some guys, but that's just the game of baseball that Ken was talking about, where it's like it's always fun to see when the lower, I'm not going to call San Diego a lower payroll team, but just when you could be addition by subtraction in this game that you normally don't get in any other sport.
Maybe the Padres should back off a little bit and not put so much pressure on the Dodgers, because other years the Dodgers cruise into the playoffs and then the playoffs hit and wham, they're out of the playoffs.
Yeah, you don't want to battle them.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm just saying, obviously they can't do that. They want to chase them down for division, just like the Diamondbacks do. But Dodgers have to keep pushing here. And you've seen it, that teams that have to keep pushing into the playoffs sometimes get hot. And sometimes the teams that don't push, you're like, well, they're cruising in. How do you make that push? How do you get that urgency? Who knows? We'll see.
It'd be nice to get Darvish back. That's for damn sure. They would love that. And he's going to keep throwing, hopefully getting healthy. I don't think you have him going through all this and setting the schedule up for him to return without it being a realistic possibility. So even if it's for a middle relief guy or something, maybe, I think that you'd love to have a pitcher, a healthy Yu Darvish on any roster. So,
yeah, I think he'll be back. The pitching's good. It's playoff good too. I've talked about it a lot on this show, but the high leverage arms they have, even if a dude gets cold or a dude goes down, they still have, just in my mind, so much more trust in their high leverage relievers than almost any team in baseball has, in terms of the amount of names. It's not just like, oh, we got one or two guys that are going to be auto 8th and 9th inning for us. I mean,
yeah.
What's the number there, Kratz? Maybe 5 that you feel really good about?
I mean, I can name 4. You have Suarez. You have Tanner Scott.
Yeah.
You have Jeremiah. You have Jeremiah Estrada. And then you have, freaking A. So I can't name 4. I named 3.
Yeah, you do. No. I was going to add 2 more. Jason Adam.
Oh, right. I knew there was somebody else that they picked up.
And I have one. I mean, he's not in that category, but I definitely would rely on him pretty heavily for playoff innings, and Adrian Morejon. So, and then you go to a next tier, which still could feature some arms that you'd feel good about. But I think right there, we at least came up with 4 or 5 that you feel really good about pitching in
it's a 5-inning game.
Late inning,
it's a 5-inning game.
Exactly. All right. Coming up next, we're going to introduce a new segment that puts bad teams to bed. Not the worst teams, we know they've been sleeping for a while, but the teams that had a shot that now get to play golf soon. Hey, Tommy, we haven't had you on since you signed. So I know in the offseason you spoke about how, we were trying to go to a contender. And when you joined the White Sox, obviously you wanted to just get back into the game, of course, and get going because it was a late signing. And what was your thought process on how free agency played out and where you ended up here?
Free agency was a mess for me. I don't really know what happened, man. Several teams called. In comparison to the previous offseason, I thought things were going to be different. They were going to be great, but it just didn't work that way. I didn't get my first offer until February 25th. And I thought that was odd because that's after spring training has started. Several teams called. It looked like we were going to get close, and it just never really materialized with them. I was always kind of like their plan B. So that was an eye opener to me. But yeah, I didn't get my first offer till February 25th. Then the second offer came in days later.
I'm modeling today for foulterritoryshop.com. It's probably my favorite website. It's where you can find shirts, hats, hoodies, polos, wristbands, coffee mugs, stickers, the whole deal. Foulterritoryshop.com. Support the FT fam. Wear it, take a picture of it, show us, maybe tag us on Instagram, and we'll restory it. New segment. They're cooked. So we know who's been cooked for a while. This is not the segment for the White Sox, the Marlins, the A's, all that. Let's get a tier up and talk about teams that were at least talked about in the playoff picture for some time. And also we're going to get to some teams potentially, if we have time, that are still very much in the playoff picture and see if we feel like they're about to be cooked. But let's start with the Pirates. So congratulations to the Pittsburgh Pirates. You made a really nice run for the first, 75% or so of the season. But the last quarter is talking about your prospects and what's happening next year. Kip, they've lost 10 games in a row. They've been a fun team to follow, especially because of the emergence of Jared Jones and Paul Skeens. But your thoughts on Pittsburgh, giving it the good old college try and letting their fans down? And when I say letting their fans down, I mean ownership.
Hibachi. They're cooked. You can't. These are when teams are needing to play their best baseball and making their moves, and you see guys like we just talked about, the D-backs and Padres, and you want to catch people, and losing double digits in a row right now does not scream playoff team to me one bit.
10 in a row after the All-Star break. 10 in a row. It doesn't look good. When we talk to the Pirates next year in spring training, they're going to say, coming back, they have a nice tan from golfing all off season, but they're going to say, well, we were playing well. Remember, we were a game and a half out, and we were just riddled with some injuries. We lost Jared Jones, and then they'll start rattling off all the injuries that they had throughout the entire year. Like they're the only team that had injuries. The issue is the ownership does not set them up to have those injuries. The Phillies are one of the best teams in the National League. They've had injuries. The Brewers are the best team in the NL Central, the division that they play in, and they are a small market. They've had injuries. Their ownership sets them up. Their system sets them up to be able to withstand injuries. So this is not the players' fault. The players are doing what they can, and I love a lot of pieces from this team. They just couldn't withstand losing a Jared Jones. They couldn't withstand a down year from Ke'Bryan Hayes. And that's what they need to supplement their organization and their team.
We got two things here. First, we got our cutting board, our foul territory cutting board. That's what we're going to use that to cut up the Pittsburgh. They're hibachi right now. Secondly, one of my favorite things that Brancona, Tito would always say in spring training, and that's what Kratz, I'm going to echo what you're kind of hinting at, is the rosters are 25 men.
26 now.
26, excuse me. But if you want to be a real chance to win, it's going to take a lot more than 26 guys. You need to have depth. You need to be set up to withstand injuries, to battle with this stuff. So he would always, every spring training, he's like, we're going to break with 25 at that time, 25 guys. He's like, but in order for us to win, we're going to need a lot more of the guys that are in this spring training room. So it takes about 40, 45 guys to really be a good team because there's just so many games and the season's so long. You're going to have stuff that goes wrong. You're going to have injuries that pop up. And if you want to be a good team, you're going to have to be able to withstand the negativities and the downsides of a long season. And Pittsburgh's just not set up to do that yet.
That's a great point on the injuries from you two. So when you talk to team broadcasters or team people sometimes, they'll be like, oh my gosh, we've been through it this year with the injuries. And I'm like, you're in a bubble, okay? You're in a bubble. We'll point out I would say there are a few teams where you look and you're like, wow, this has really been nuts. And it's superstars that are all out, like say Strider and Acuna or something like that with the Braves. Yeah. But there are so many teams sometimes will be like, guys, we've been through it. Our seventh inning reliever has been down since May. I'm like, stop. Enough. It's ridiculous. So the Pirates have been fine.
You can't replace that. If you can't replace a seventh inning reliever, and that's a direct quote from people. It's like, what are you expecting here?
The Pirates have been, I would say, probably one of the more healthy teams this year. They haven't been going down left and right.
I mean, okay. You know when every one of the Braves gets hurt. Because almost all of the ones in the starting lineup and the rotation were in the All-Star game last year. You just don't know when the Pirates guys get hurt because you're like, didn't really know about him because he's got like 3/4 of a year, got like a year and a half. You remember when the stars get hurt? So that's why we put up the graphic of, the Dodgers have an entire All-Star team starting rotation on the IL. That's all they have. They only have all-stars. That's why it's a, quote, dream team. The Pirates need to supplement their team with legitimate guys who are ready to or have helped teams win in the big leagues, and then they supplement it with the young guys. Ownership puts them in a situation where they can only have a team of young guys.
Yeah, I'm looking at their IL right now for their 40-man. There's almost no position players on it. So just pointing that out there. But that's part of the problem.
The luxury of the big market teams too, though. They can afford guys who are better at stepping in. Who can if someone gets injured, you're not going to miss the production as much because they have a chance to have higher production guys there anyways.
They don't invest in really any free agent offense for the most part. That's always been their thing. It's a massive ownership plague. So let's cue up this tweet because I guess there's talks now, which is fair because it's been years, on the jobs of Ben Cherington and Derek Shelton, right? So here's one tweet. Give one reason why Shelton Cherington should survive Pirates collapse. I'm a big, I know you're probably going to say the same thing, Kratz. I'm a big Derek Shelton fan. And for me, Cherington, is given the same template as a team like Baltimore, and you're not going to get every tanking team to become the Orioles. So it's a tough sell. I think it's way more a combo on the front office side than it is on the coaching side. I think they have outperformed expectations the last couple of years.
And I know for a fact that coaching staff has created an environment in Pittsburgh where they will win when supplemented. I've said the word supplement too many times, but they have people put in positions to have success. And so if there's a 1-2 ranking here, it is it's unanimous Ben Cherington over Derek Shelton. But I can't really say what Ben did. I think I liked the stuff that he was able to pick up in the offseason. He was able to get, an Aroldis Chapman. He was able to go and get a Marco Gonzalez. Like, he made some moves. Boring. He made some moves within the, if we're going to rank, Bob Nutting, Ben Cherington, and then Derek Shelton. I love that coaching staff. And I have personal relationships with some of those guys, but I love that staff because of how they treat guys, and I think they can build a winner there with those guys in that spot.
Yep. And let's show the graphic, and then we'll hit the break because we got the big man from yesterday joining us next.
Cooked.
Nice.
Cooked.
Yeah.
Was that a kid? Was that a cookie? Was that a cookie that they put on there? Because I'm not about cooking a cookie. Like, let's just eat that, John.
It's like a fancy burnt ends that they placed all around the perimeter, and I don't know. But yeah, it's a good try. I feel bad for Pittsburgh fans. I love that city and the fan base, but they just need more TLC from the big man. All right, let's step aside. We got the big man from yesterday, Mr. Cycle, joining us next on FT. We are very excited to talk to Weston Wilson of the Phillies.
Nobody's called him Mr. Cycle.
I'm going to call him Mr. Cycle when we introduce him.
It's going to be weird. It's going to be weird. It's going to be cringy. It's going to be like me saying Riz around my kids. Like,
fine,
when
then I won't say it. Okay, here's my negotiation, okay? Because I have to do this every day. I have to blab back and forth with Kratz and introduce all these dudes, especially a Philly. Why don't you do it? Take over and you give me what the kids would say to introduce Weston Wilson, or just like a cool way to introduce Weston Wilson. Get my corny ass out of here.
2,500 minor league at bats. If you don't lead off with 2,500 minor league at bats, a dude that was grinding, an absolute grinder to get to the big leagues, he had to spend time in the Milwaukee minor league system. He had to go to Maryville every year. Didn't get shot once. You can start with that. Mr. Cycle, maybe like Senor Cicle, something like that.
Kip, I overlooked this part. When you bring on a player that has gone through it in the minors, the man above you in the box lights up.
I played professional baseball. Let's be honest. Like, I wasn't in the pros. but I was playing professional baseball. Like I was playing a game, but you were playing in the minor leagues, so it's different. You're in the bushes. And he was in Maryville. Kip. It ain't no Goodyear next to the airplane boneyard, but at least you're not getting shot there.
If you're rooting for him, why don't you want to give him his flowers? If he hits the cycle, call him Mr. Cycle.
I don't know. I just don't think Mr. Cycle. Christian Yelich like calls his cycles. Like that's Mr. Cycle. You get 2 or 3 of them.
No, he
Brock
does.
Holt's got a cycle in the playoffs. He's the only one ever.
That's it. I did it in Triple A.
You did in AAA?
AAA playoffs.
Single away from back-to-back cycles.
No.
Yeah.
Back-to-back games?
I got called up from
Kip's introducing them.
What?
You're introducing them.
One cycle guy to the next. I
Yep.
can pass off the torch now. No, but I was a hit away a bunch in the pros. Never got in the pros, so you got to tip the cap. Give him his flowers.
There you go. Okay, so Kratz, get ready for the intro. We're coming right back. And also, by the way, we have a Phillies show under the FT network. It's called The Phillies Show. They do great interviews on there. But we're talking to Weston Wilson in a moment on FT.
A hit away is not a triple away either, so that doesn't count.
I was numerous away each time.
All right, we're back on FT. Erik Kratz, former Philly, spent some time in the minors. Take it away.
All right, they asked me to introduce you, Weston Graham Wilson, okay? Soon to be father, okay? Philadelphia Phillies fans' favorite new player, Weston Wilson. Over 2,500 minor league at-bats, but not just regular at-bats. You went to Maryville every year for spring training, and you have no bullet wounds that we know of. Is this true or not true?
This is true. I do have a teammate, not from Maryville, but he has a bullet wound. But yeah, there was a lot of times where they'd shut the complex down, kind of shut the gates and not let people leave. Helicopters flying around. Definitely a shady spot.
Wow. And look at him now. Mr.
Oh yeah.
Cycle from last night. So I had to do it. So how was it? Right. So obviously bringing you on for many reasons, but here's one of them. Perfect timing. Congrats on the cycle yesterday. Big win, obviously, for the Phillies. But
thank you so much.
How was that? How was the experience for you? Take us through anything interesting that fans should know about. Were people saying stuff to you in the dugout?
Yeah. So first at bat, struck out. Next at bat, got the hardest one out of the way, the triple. Almost ate it around second base. I didn't really see the ball carry him off because of the video board. Kind of blended in at first, and kind of had like a straight line at second base and had to cut the corner tight and almost ate it. But yeah, got that one out of the way, and I think the coolest hit was probably the single hit, like 43 miles an hour, I think is what they said. Blew me up, man. It was a slider that went backwards. But yeah, just it was the top of the 8th. We came off the field, and Harper was waiting there at the end of the dugout, and he goes, "Hey, Wes, I don't care where you hit this ball. You're going to not stop running until you get to second base." So just, hearing that kind of made me laugh, and, everybody was so supportive.
So a double was the last one, correct?
Double was the last one, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't – so we were talking about Langelier as being a hit away and not knowing it before. I was like, if you have 3 hits and one's a triple already too, you're a hit away. And what you need.
Once I hit the homer, I knew it was after the homer I knew that I was a hit away.
So that's why I don't believe Langelier that he didn't know. He claims that he didn't know as a catcher.
Which one did he need?
Scott Erik. He needed the triple. But he still had 3
triple
ones.
Yeah. That's probably why.
I'm just happy. I'm trying to – Kratz and me think you should get your flowers, and you should, because the last time I was on here and talking about you, so I'm not on as much, was your debut where you hit a home run, but it was overshadowed by a no-hitter, wasn't it?
It was. But that was way cooler, man. Be a part of that no-hitter on my debut was just incredible.
That's an awesome debut, too. But I'm glad that you're still trucking away, and you got a cycle under your belt, which not many people in the league can say. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I feel very blessed, and just it's kind of a blur right now. Just putting all this in perspective. I was telling somebody earlier. Last year, I hit my home run in my first at bat, and I didn't really get to sit down and watch it until after the season. I was driving home from somewhere, and I just put the game on and watched the whole thing. So that was the first time it really set in. I think this one's going to take a little bit as well.
What's something you've probably done a million interviews since the game? What is the memento? What's the like keepsake that they gave you or presented to you that you're going to be like, that's awesome. I'm definitely juiced that I'm keeping that.
Say that again. It cut out a little bit.
Oh, just what is the memento that they're giving you? Like, did they give you all the bases? Did they like take your bat and, you know, put a sticker on it? What were the things that they gave you that you're like, this means more than like any other first home run ball or anything like that?
Yeah. As of now, I think they've authenticated the bat, the single, double, which was the one to get it, and then the triple. They did not get the home run ball. But I got my batting gloves and my cleats. All that's authenticated. And I'm actually probably going to do a shadow box. Cool story. Rhys Hoskins last year after my debut, I came in and they were like, hey, what do you want authenticated from today's game? You can do whatever you want. And they said, you know, one of your teammates is going to get you a box to put. And so it's actually at my house now. And yeah, Rhys hooked it up.
So wait, after your first home run and all that stuff, you didn't watch that until the season was over?
I saw clips of it, but I never watched the entire game to where, you know, I could see the interviews from my parents and all that stuff.
Okay, that's a little different. Have you watched your cycle from last night?
Yeah, I did get to see that.
Right, all right. Enjoy it a little bit. I think that's one of the coolest parts, and it's almost assumed, or you would think of it as like play as a fan. One of the coolest parts, you have a good game, go in bed, and you're watching ESPN at night and seeing highlights is one of the most underrated parts of playing in the big leagues. It's one of the coolest things. Why did I hear a grumble out of Kratz on that one?
Because I completely agree.
Yeah, it's one of one of the coolest unspoken perks of playing a professional sport is seeing yourself on ESPN after a great game and being able to watch it. So I want you to watch yourself a little bit more and enjoy it when it happens because you deserve to.
I will. Yeah, I've seen it on Instagram and stuff, but
yeah,
last year was cool because, you know, I went to the hotel right after the game and was able to watch it with my wife on the news and on ESPN. This one I didn't get to see on ESPN or anything. So, you know, I'll go home and do that tonight with her.
It's a mental game. So if you got something that's going to boost you up and make you feel a little bit better, a little strut the next day, going to the ballpark, dude, use it.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna couple off that. We could go right off a Kip on that one. What did it feel like waking up this morning? Because I know what it felt like waking up after going 0 for 4. But you get a couple knocks and you're like, you get up and you're like, am I even gonna take BP today? Because I'm pretty fresh. Kip, you can attest to it. So take us through what it was like when you woke up this morning.
Yeah, I didn't get to bed until late last night. Just couldn't go to sleep, and then I was like, all right, I need to put my phone down and go to bed. Set my alarm for 10 o'clock, and I ended up waking up maybe around 9, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go outside and walk to a coffee shop and go hang out and I don't know, just relax. I mean, it's really cool after you have great games to just relax. And definitely, like you said, a lot different feeling than when you go 0 for 4 the night before and you want to, correct that the next day.
So are you looking at the lineup today and you're already at the field, but are you coming into the field like, I kind of want to savor this 4 for 5 game. Like maybe Topper doesn't put me in the lineup. I know we got a bunch of lefties coming up here, or are you like, get me up to just let me lead off. Schwarber, You go hitting the bottom of the order. I'm leading off. Which is it?
I'm gonna leave Schwarber there, man. Schwarber's the man. He does a great job. But to be honest with you, I just want to play as much as I can. Doesn't matter who it is. I'm playing against righty or lefty. I just want to play as much as possible, and I'm in there tonight. So see if we can do something again.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Weston, how many times did you go through that annoying experience of either thinking, hey, it's not going to happen for me, or somebody even telling you that, right? Like I've talked to players who have made it when they logged many minor league at bats, and they're like, yeah, my agent was like, maybe you should think about something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. You hear people saying like, hey, it's usually the comments that are harmless. They just don't know what they're saying. Like, what have you thought about after baseball, or just those kind of questions. And I always truly felt in my heart that I would play in the big leagues. I just needed an opportunity. Came close a couple times, felt like I deserved a shot a couple times, but I was telling somebody earlier at this kids camp that I was doing today, asking about what it was like getting the call for the first time. And, my dad always told me it's going to be when you least expect it. And that was definitely the case. Felt like I was playing well enough to get an opportunity to play in the big leagues, but I just wasn't expecting it when my manager in AAA told me. So just really cool, man.
Before I get to my question, where were you doing a camp at? Because I live 45 minutes outside of Philly. Where were you doing a camp at?
It was like a Q&A in the stadium. So I guess it's Phillies Baseball Academy. I'm looking at it on the board right now. But I guess they come here and do some stuff, and then they get to come into the media room and someone, asks some questions, and then they get to ask questions. So it's just like a little hour thing.
All right, so he asked, okay, hanging him up. Well, look, let's be honest. You weren't hanging him up last year before you got called up. 31 pumps in Lehigh, which it's no Columbus where Kip sharpened his teeth. Columbus, you probably would have had 45 dingers. But anyway, Lehigh's big.
Hey, Columbus got me right this year and got me called up.
All right. Let's just cool it.
Let's go. Columbus. That's why Kip was just a multi-year all-star, not more than that. But how close were you to Japan? Because 30 pumps in the bushes, that just automatically just dings on Japanese radars. How close were you to thinking that was a possibility?
It definitely was. I had teams contacting my agent left and right. Had opportunities this offseason. Had opportunities last year in AAA to go over there halfway through towards August. But the Phillies wanted me here, and I'm glad I got an opportunity. And they wanted me here this offseason. Obviously, sometimes when things aren't progressing like you think, maybe an opportunity isn't coming up like you think it might. People come in and ask if that's a shot, and you give it a little weight, but obviously I feel like I can play in the big leagues here, and don't feel like it, that's something that I need to go do right now. But just want to help this team win, man, whatever way that is, starting games, coming off the bench. We got a great group here, and my heart's here.
Last night was a blast to watch. Super happy for you, and obviously for the success of the ball club this year. So thank you for joining us, Weston. This was great. I want to rate Kratz's intro at the finish line here. Yes, Erik, I knew.
Sorry, this is going to kill me. My producer's going to say one more, and I'm interrupting you twice in one day, Scott. I have to tell you, Wes, you don't know me from anybody, but my kids and I were watching the game last night, and when you came up, they have never been more glued to the screen. 15 and 17-year-old boys got away from their phones and were glued. And audibly cheered when you got your double. So just know, and they're not even both Phillies fans. One is a Phillies fan, another one's a Yankees fan. But just so you know, like it makes an impact, and people will remember you for what you did last night.
That's awesome, and honestly, that's what it's all about. Is how can I, impact other kids or whoever it is. But now they're able to hear about my story. The long journey that it was to get to the big leagues, and hopefully it impacted some people.
Yeah. See you Sunday.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. You see him Sunday. Hey, Weston, thank you so much. It definitely is making an impact. Keep doing your thing. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Weston Wilson with us from the Phillies. And yes, there is a Philly show, part of the FT network. It's with Ruben Amaro, Jim Salisbury, and Todd Zalecki. I love when Ruben does the point, like, watch us, listen to us, check out the YouTube channel, and type in that name wherever you get your podcast. Paul Sewald is waiting for us. They'll be joining us next.
Can you put your finger on why they don't ever just veer from this rhetoric of, oh, it's going to be good, oh, we're going to keep this person at a trade deadline? What can you put your finger on it, or is it several things?
I think that it's this, one thing I will say for Artie, it's a misguided idea, but it is the idea that he doesn't want to have like a rebuilding, a year where you go in and there's no hope. I think that's the biggest thing here. That is the driving force behind it. The issue is they haven't really spent in free agency since they signed Anthony Rendon. I mean, I think Perry's his fourth year. The largest contract that he signed was Raisel Iglesias, which was like 4 years and 56, I think. And then they salary dumped him three or 4 months later. So this was, they really haven't had the flexibility to sign guys. And so if you're not going to operate as a big market team, which I think the Angels should be in their market, then if you're not going to be like that, then you have to operate like the Orioles and the Reds and the Rays, and teams that are smart, and the teams that are building up their farm system to the point where they're able to compete with a lower budget. The Angels they're not investing in the back end, and they're not investing in free agency right now. And I think they're hoping that this young core, they do have a decent young core. They do have some good young players, but it's not enough to win games at a consistent clip. It's just the facts. I mean, they have enough evidence year after year, and including this year, to see that if they stay on the current path without, building up that farm system with players that can make a difference at some point, then it's just going to be the same thing next year and the same thing the year after that.
There he is, Paul Sewald of the Diamondbacks, back on FT. What do we got today? What's this T-shirt we're rocking?
Rare but real. It's about Williams syndrome. So Amiel, one of our assistant GMs, his daughter has Williams syndrome, and we all they had a charity event for the cause and the organization a couple of weeks ago, and everyone got a shirt and made sure. And so I can support her, but also it's just a really comfortable shirt. So it kind of works in both ways.
That's awesome. No, and that's why you make shirts too, so we can bring that up. Like, you don't get that without the T-shirt. So really cool.
Exactly.
Great start.
Exactly.
Great start to the combo. I love it. All right, so tell me about your ball club, because since we last spoke, have you guys lost?
No, we have not lost. Not lost a game. Certainly haven't lost a series. No, it's been good. It's been good. It's funny you had Ken Rosenthal on earlier. He was at the game a couple days ago, and I saw him, and I just went up to him. I said, "Did we have to win 14 series in a row for you to come out to Arizona to watch us? I haven't seen you in a couple months." So, yeah, it's been good. Been good. The boys have been on fire, and just to we're starting to get healthy, and we're starting to get kind of all the pieces that we thought we were going to have in spring training, and this team's just been unbelievable, and even people that we didn't expect to be major cogs have turned into really, really important pieces. And that's just a credit to Mike making sure that our roster is as good as it could possibly be. And the players have put in the work, and here we are.
I won't mention the team, but we were discussing another team that is out of it now, out of the playoffs. They had a shot. They have some really good players on their team, kind of homegrown talent. But how much do you need all 40 or 50 guys in an organization? And for a owner, exactly what you said about Hazen, the GM, building a team that has depth, because I'm pretty sure you guys are having a good season, 4 up in the wild card, and you guys have had injuries, right? So how much of that is needed? We had a discussion for about 5 minutes before you came on.
Yeah, I think you guys know there's plenty of guys. There's 75 guys who bring into camp. And yet there's always somebody who wasn't even in spring training that makes an impact on the team. So you're talking not the 40-man roster, not even 50 guys, 60 guys you bring to camp. We're talking about 80 guys get used, whether it's a prospect that you trade for a big leaguer. That's one of those things that, gets underappreciated. It's the more prospects you have, the more you can trade them for current major leaguers and to make your 26-man roster better. So not only is it important to have, a deep 40-man roster, so when you have injuries, you can bring somebody up, but you've got to have a deep farm system so you can trade for pieces and bring back, AJ Puck and Dylan Floro and make sure your bullpen's as good as it can be. Getting Josh Bell when you really need him. That's just a credit to the entire organization about making sure that we have all the pieces that are equipped to give us the best chance at making a run here in October.
All right, I don't need to rehash exactly your up and down season, but you've been lights out or lights off. So I'm not sure which is better, but I have to adjust it to the question is moving in a direction. How soon is too soon to take somebody who propelled their team to the World Series out of the closer's role?
That's up to Torey and that's up to the organization. And they made a decision that they thought at that time was the best time to reprieve me of that role and try to give some other guys a chance and see if, that gives us the best chance of winning. He's in charge of making sure that the Diamondbacks have the best chance they have at winning. And at that moment, he didn't think that that me in the closer role was the best chance. And so he decided to make a move. And he said it's not necessarily permanent. It's just one of the things that we're going to go with right now. And that's just one of those things that, as a player, you're very much concerned with yourself. You're not necessarily concerned with the best part of the entire organization. So that's up to them. And they decided that was the best thing that's for us. And, I'm just out there trying to make sure that I do what I can do to help the team, whether that's going to pitch in the 6th inning, whether that's, if I get the closer role again, I'm going to go out there and do the best I can to throw strikes and get outs and make sure that we have a chance to win. Because ultimately we're in a great position that winning really matters in these next 6 weeks. And the more we have, the better chance we have of going to October and doing what we really want to do.
I appreciate your honesty with that answer because that is a tough question, but I know you're very honest. And how much is it motivating? How much is it also when Torey has that conversation with you that he's already had other conversations? Because I always talk about managers building up that cachet, that balance with you. Like he's communicated a lot with you. So when he has to have a tough conversation, he's withdrawing from that, knowing that it will piss you off, but knowing what kind of person you are. How much of that is, how does that whole process go with Torey?
Yeah. Torey and I have a great communication system. He and I go back and forth. He and I go back and forth about a lot of things, not just my career. And so I feel like we have a good relationship where, he understood that he had to deliver that message, but he understood that I wasn't going to walk out of there with a smile and excited that, I got demoted from the role that I've had for so long. But I think he understood that when I took the message and I took, that idea that I was going to do the best that I could to get it back and to be the best pitcher that I can possibly be. And we need to make adjustments to be the best version of myself that I can possibly be. And so that's all I'm focused on. What can I do to be the best version of Paul Sewald I could possibly be? And that's all that really matters to me. That's all I'm concerned about. That's all they want me to be focused on. And like I said, we're in the middle of a pennant race. If your feelings are going to get hurt from stuff like this, like, you just don't belong, especially in our damn Diamondbacks clubhouse. So I'm just out there trying to figure out how to be the best pitcher I can possibly be. Whenever they tell me to pitch, I'm going to run out there and I'm going to do the best I can.
I love it. I think I just put it together, by the way, that your little brother was at Arizona State, that you guys were related for the first time. I think I just put that together.
And I saw you were on this. I don't know if you know this. You and I have a connection. Do you know that you and I have a connection?
We were almost traded for each other.
We were almost traded for each other in 2017.
I do remember that rumor. You got to be an honorary ASU fan at this point, because I see that's where you met your wife during the fall league, and then your brother went there.
I'm pretty devil. I didn't go there myself. I wasn't nearly good enough to go there. They were pretty stacked when I was in college. But my brother going there and my wife going there, I feel like I have an honorary ASU Sun Devil to me, and so that's pretty special being back in Phoenix. It was one of the reasons I think we were so happy. We were just taken aback by the trade, but the fact to get to go to Phoenix, go to a place where I met my wife, where we have so many friends, where we have family, was pretty special.
Hey, I love Arizona, and it's great weather and great vibes and all of that. And this is great. We can go back to this, but you can't do that. You guys can't do that. You can't be like, oh, we got that little connection where we were almost traded in 2016. Like, I need everything now. I mean, especially because it's been a long time. Give me everything. Like, what was the deal? What were you hearing? Like, Paul, you want to start, and then Kip can fill in the blanks?
Was on the Mets, and it was a straight up, I think.
So I was on the Mets. Kip was on the Cleveland team, whatever you want to call them, at the time. And so, this is kind of just like, hey, like, there's rumors going on. You see on Twitter, it's like, there's a trade. Kipnis is going to go to the Mets for player. And then next thing you know, it's like 10 minutes later, there's another tweet that's like, the Wilpon family canceled the deal. They're not going to do the deal. And in my opinion, I'm like, oh, we're getting Jason Kipnis sick. This is going to be awesome. And then I found out like 3 months later, I found out in spring training, some reporter got a hold of like, well, who was going to be the player that was traded? And they said it was going to be Paul Sewald. And so I was kind of like, all right, well, I guess I wasn't going to be teammates with Kip because we were going to get swapped. So, so that's the story. So it was done deal. The GMs had it agreed upon. The Wilpons canceled it at the last second. Next thing you know, I'm still in New York, and Kip is still in Cleveland, and here we are today. I think this is the first time that you and I have talked about that or anything like that.
And then we share a fun at bat where it's like, oh, we both knew it was like we were almost traded for each other. I'm pretty sure Paul blew my doors off. So I was like, okay, maybe they're smart to hold on to him. So that worked out well for everyone. What I wanted to ask you kind of, because since were there for last year's run, what would be the main difference or similarities do you see from last year's playoff team to how you guys are playing now?
You know what? We're a completely different team, but at our core, we're still the same team, right? Our team goes with Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll. That's what we did last year. And Marty, had that 25-game hit streak in the postseason. That's what, he was the NLCS MVP. He very much carried us to the point that we wanted to go. And our team goes with Corbin Carroll. He's essentially our best player. When he goes, he sets everything up. He's on the leadoff spot. He's fast. He creates chaos. We have guys on base for people to drive them in. It just is, those two were the core of our offense last year, and they're still the core of our offense this year. The difference is that we're so much deeper this year at every position. I think, we just need to give our front office an incredible praise that they created a really, really deep team, right? We have much better starting pitching than we had last year. In September, we were doing the bullpen day 2 out of every 5, right? It was Gallen, it was Merrill, it was Fodder, and then we kind of prayed for 2 days to see if we could get through it. And now, now we're looking at, hey, we have 6 really good starters. How are we going to come down to 5 and make sure how we get the best 13-man pitching staff we could possibly have? And our lineup just gets so deep. You just talk about Jake McCarthy was getting very limited at bats a month ago. Now he's hitting 7 million in the month of July and August. And so he didn't get 3 hits a couple of days ago. So that was, he'll try to fix that and we'll just try to go from there. So I just think just generally at the core, we're still the same team. That's who we are, but we are just so much deeper. And I just think so much better than we were last year.
We just had Jake on the other day and his mustache is just impeccable. It is awesome. So if that's what
Everything
it takes
about
to get 4
Jake is
hits,
just perfect right now.
okay, that's good. He can't do anything wrong. He had a great
He can't do
headband
anything
on.
wrong.
Yeah, everything was
about him,
awesome.
perfect.
So another perfect man. You mentioned him, Ketel Marte. We talk about NL MVP candidates. What you've seen the rest of the National League? Is he the MVP of the National League?
I'm fairly biased, but I would say that he's the most valuable player in our league. I think there's not to take away anything from any of the other players who are being nominated, and we still have 6 weeks of the season, right? This is why they don't give the award on August 15th. We have 6 weeks to do what we can, but I think he just provides so much for our team. He's been absolutely the best player in our league. It's difficult. Do you want to say the most valuable or do you want to say the best? And it just, I think he's done both. I think he's been extremely valuable when we were lacking a little bit of offense and we were lacking some health. He seemed to carry us. We made the joke in the bullpen that he was Greg Jennings, just carrying the team on his back all the time. And now we've started to get a lot of pieces rolling, and it hasn't stopped him. The second half, you kind of thought like, maybe he really wanted to be an all-star since he was snubbed last year, and he thought he was extra motivated. And it's like, all right, now the all-star game's done. What's he going to come back with? And he's been even better than he was in the first half. And I think just a lot of credit to him that he's been our best player, and he's carried us to the point that we're in right now. And I would say when you're leading the wild card, that's extreme value. So I think you talk about most valuable, best player. Marty's done it all. He's been incredible, and I can't say enough good things about him as a teammate and just as somebody who I get to watch, every day play.
2 things. How is his ankle? And how concerned was everybody when he comes out of a game? Because it was like 2 or 3 games out of 4 games where like he came out in the middle of the game because of that ankle. How many guys go into the training room and are really concerned when that happens?
Yeah, so I'll give you a 2-part answer. I really don't know. Even if I knew, I probably couldn't give you the answer.
Right.
But I honestly don't know the health status of his ankle. All of us are just hoping and praying it's really nothing, super, super severe. I think he was still sore, but he's a gamer and he's like, hey, I want to get back out there as quickly as possible. And he probably just needed a couple extra days of not doing anything. So good thing he didn't play 2 days ago. We had the off day yesterday. We have a couple of off days here. We have like 3 and 10 days. So maybe this is a great chance to maybe, sit him a day or 2 or try and make sure that he gets as much rest as he possibly can. So then when September comes, we need him as much as possible. So a lot of concern, right? I just talked about how great he's been. When you see a player like that go down, your heart stops. And so you start to worry. But he's really, really tough. So if he can play, he will play. So I appreciate that. I appreciate who he is. And hopefully we just hope that, with these couple extra off days, a little bit extra treatment, that he's going to be just fine.
Okay, so I'm going to take us in a different direction here. I don't think I've ever asked you about him, but maybe correct me if I'm wrong. You're friends with Kris Bryant, right? You've known him for years?
For a long time. His brother and I were on our very first Little League teams together ever at like 5 or 6. So it's been 30 years or so since I've known Kris. So we go back a little bit, yes.
Yeah, so you followed superstar college, obviously superstar in the bigs, wins a World Series with the Cubs, the whole deal. Do you keep in touch with him or follow where he's at now? Because it's wild. I mean, he is a lifetime legend in Chicago. And in addition, obviously not performing well, I mean, part of that's tied into, I don't know if people even realize, like he's back on the IL. I don't know if he'll come back this season. He's got like really bad chronic back issues. So just wanted to get your thoughts on what he's gone through in the second half of his career kind of disappearing.
Yeah, it's like a sad story, right? It's been his Chicago story couldn't have been any better. And his Colorado series has been about as bad as it can be, unfortunately. And it's really devastating to see. As a friend and just somebody who enjoys, we kind of want the best baseball players on planet Earth to be playing so that everyone can watch him. And he's one of those guys, when he's healthy, he just can't stay healthy. And even when he's borderline healthy, he's playing through it. And so he's not the same, KB that we've all kind of grown up watching and loving. And, it's just really disappointing, just the, father time. And I'm not saying he's done playing baseball, but just injuries start to pile up the older you get. And he just had so many miles on him so early playing, he was in the big leagues at 22. It just is very difficult. You just start to add up all those games and never got a day off in Chicago, and you're going to the postseason every single season. So you're adding stress there. And, then you go to Colorado, and everyone who's been there knows that that's a tough place for your body to feel the best it can feel. And, it's just disappointing to see. And I hope nothing but the best health for him moving forward. I know this back stuff has seemed to get him for the last 3 years. And so just praying he finds whatever the answer is, find it, get a procedure, do the work, whatever you can possibly do to just get healthy and kind of finish that contract in Colorado like we kind of hoped it was going to start.
Do you hear any guys talk about, not specifically Chris, but I mean, it applies to him because he's had the injuries and now it's like a tough back injury, about Colorado being a bad place to recover? Or do you feel it when you just go in for a 3 or 4 game series and, 2 different series in a month?
Yeah, anybody who's played a lot of time there or a little time there knows that, like, you just don't feel as good in Colorado. And so, snowbirds don't move to Colorado to get, to make their body feel good. People move to Arizona, they move to Florida, they move somewhere where it's very warm and a little bit of humidity, and Colorado just doesn't have that. And I know from experience, you have to do everything you possibly can to recover there. It's not a workstation series when you go there. It's a recovery station series. So I know I always bring Epsom salts to take a bath there to try and make sure that you bring inflammation down. And it's just this constant battle. And, I only go there 2 times a year at the very most. And so playing 81 games there can really toll on you. I know Mike Dunn and I grew up working out together when I was early in my career and early in the minor leagues. And he signed there, and he had nothing but great things to say about Denver. And I love Denver, the city, but as a place to try and feel your best when you have to perform at a physical level, it's a really tough place. And so it's just one of those things that I know Chris is going through right now. That's a tough place for you to feel your best, unfortunately. And if you already have problems, they just start to compound, I feel like, there.
And that's why I'll say it. There are certain cities, certain teams that have to overpay for free agents. That's one of them, just based on what you're talking about. Often it's pitching, but it's position players too. Just like Toronto, it's just about Canada. It has nothing to do with the Blue Jays or the organization. Yep. It's a pain to have to deal with customs and all that for families, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just and you just said it. There's nothing to say about it. They just have to make up for the inconveniences, and that's a drastic inconvenience. And especially as a pitcher, you're not going to be as good there as you could be other places. And so if you want to get a pitcher, you have to figure out how to get in there, and it's a little more dollars. And that was KB's biggest offer. And that's, when you get to free agency, that's your right, is to take the biggest offer you can possibly have. And he's got 4 kids now, so he's got to make some money for those kids. And so I don't blame him for that at all. But I do understand that, it's a tough place to feel your best. And I only go there a couple times a year. So 81 games there would not make you feel as good as other places. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, Paul, this was awesome. Great to have you on. If you mix in a loss or 2 here and there, it's okay. Just tell everyone it's okay. Make sure they feel okay. We'll grab you again in a few weeks. But stay hot.
You tell the guys in San Diego the same thing. I mean, I look up and I'm like, we haven't lost since the second half started, and we've gained no games on them. How is that even possible?
Dude,
we haven't lost a game. I don't remember the last time we lost a game, and those guys are still ahead of us. So they have the same thing in mind. They are, they're focused on being a really good team in October, and whoever plays them is going to have a certain challenge, just like anyone who plays us is going to have a challenge. So when you have a Padres guy on, you need to tell them the same thing, because we're going through the same thing they are.
Done. I'm going to use the same joke next week. Easy.
All right.
Done.
All right.
But you're right.
Awesome.
NL West has been lit. So, Paul, this was great. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
I appreciate it. Always good to see you guys.
Yeah, great to see you too. Paul Sewald from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Always a fun combo. Be right back on FT with locks and previews. All right, here we are. Show is flying.
I hit a triple in Colorado, and I was out of breath for the entire series. It was my first at bat. I could not catch my breath. It is just different there.
But that's wild too. What? You didn't feel it,
I was just gonna say, like I tried to push it because they always talked about it. Like I tried to push it, and I never felt that like where it was like it took my breath away. Like some people talk about.
I think I was only there twice. The other time I'm with you. I didn't feel any difference, but the first time just to start it off with here's a triple, and I was just could not catch my breath for a day.
Yeah, and Kip, I mean, I think this is a compliment. Like, you weren't the lumberjack where it's like, oh, this guy's going to struggle with that. Like, you played soccer. I mean, you got to be You got to be high on the stamina meter to be able to handle what you did. And then for you to say you go to Colorado and the body was taking a hit for a sec there or for a few days, that's meaningful.
I know a couple guys who have. He wasn't kidding when you have to make changes when you go there, especially when you sign there. I know a couple buddies who players who would stay after, have a couple drinks after the games, or he just would always drink beer. And he told me he's like, I had to get rid of that, or I had to switch to vodka or something where it's just like I couldn't just sit and have like beer after I would feel too sluggish, and I would feel it much more the next day than I would in other cities. So it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing, and that's why I wanted to bring up Kris Bryant. I mean, I don't think we've said his name the entire year. Like, he played. I mean, I don't know how many games, but I would occasionally tune into a Rockies game. Now he's out, and I mean, I doubt he's coming back, but he's played. Let me see how many games this year.
He hasn't had a reason for us to mention.
Less than I thought. 133 at bats this year. He hasn't had what?
Yeah, he hasn't given us a reason to talk about him too much. He knows it. He'd be
no, he's not hitting.
Yeah, he hasn't hit.
No. I mean, when he does interviews, post game in the clubhouse, the ones that I've seen, he's like kind of saying my back's screwed. So just letting you know. Obviously, fans don't care, but that is what he's saying. So It is what it is. All right, we'll come right back. Let's do locks. BetMGM locks. Here we go. First off, MLB free game of the day streaming on the app. You got to have the app and have a funded account. Once you're logged in, you can watch for free, depending on your location, the Twins and the Rangers on Friday, the Blue Jays and the Cubs on Saturday, and the Royals and the Reds on Sunday. All right, let's do those locks. So quick look back at yesterday. AJ picking up a big dub. Look at him on a parlay, and he's not here to brag about it. Don't worry. He'll bring it up on Monday. Yeah, Philly, Minnesota, and San Francisco. The Minnesota was the tight one. I mean, that was 2-2 for a good chunk of the game. I was locked in on that one because Minnesota and Texas was, I think, really the only relevant game later on because Washington was getting blown out by Philly. Obviously, you had the Weston Wilson story, but you could just watch his ABs. So anyway, Kratz falling a little short there.
Yeah. Good pick. Yeah. Good pick on the Orioles game.
Yeah.
Brutal. Not even close on the Sox game. That's okay.
It's all good. Back. All right. So bounce back. What do you got for us today?
I got my lane. I'm going to stick with my over-unders, buying them down. I love plus money, so I just buy the games down that I really, really like into plus money. So parlay, I'm going to go the Dodgers-Cardinals. How can you not? I mean, the Dodgers are going to get you 5 runs. Cardinals, they'll score you 3. So I just need one somewhere else, and I bought that down to 8.5. I think it was opening at like 10.5. So I bought it down to 8.5, and the Padres-Rockies. Padres absolutely swing it in the Rockies bullpen after Quantrill comes out. We're gonna get a big bullpen day because Waldron hasn't really been going very long, and so together I'm getting plus 122.
There you go. Okay, we're swinging it over to Jonathan Papelbon for Pap's pick next.
FT fan, what's up? It's your boy Parlay Pap coming to you live today. I got another parlay 2-game lock for you. We're going to keep the winning streak going. Here we go. New York Yankees total runs over 4.5. Houston Astros total runs over 4.5. We're going to put 100 on it. Both those lineups are smoking hot. Astros are going up against the White Sox too. They might cover that one in the first inning. So get that cheese.
Yeah, let's go. Kip, and that was like, I would say, medium range, Pap. Some days he's running through walls.
I got to get some of his coffee. I'm laughing at you saying his Pap on a boat.
I was texting that. He's rocking. Hey, we've all been there. All right, Pap, I like it. Good luck, my dude. All right, Kip, you're up.
I'm going to keep it simple. And now that I've gotten a little bit closer to even, I don't have to make all these big time parlay. So we're just going to go Cleveland minus 1.5 versus Milwaukee. I think Gavin Williams has had 2 of his last 3 starts, 1 bad versus Baltimore, but the other 2 have been really good. So I'm going to look for another good start out of him. And Milwaukee, they're going against no Yelich anymore. I'm wondering if this could be where they start to feel that. And they're going against Savali, who used to be on Cleveland. So it's a little personal thing there. And so hoping Cleveland pulls out minus 1.5. Plus
How much you
140
putting down?
I am going against what I started with, but I think I said 1,000 to Jeremy. I'm getting with the G one way or another.
Nasty. All right. A G
Scare
down.
money don't make money, Kratz. Scare money don't make money.
Boy, you know it. Rich get richer. Do it, Kip.
Come on now.
Hundo here for me, plus 137. We can show it. I got the Phillies money line fading Patrick Corbin with that Phillies offense. I was almost going to go run line. I'm just like, nah, I'll add a game. Dodgers money line. Obviously, that's much closer. That gets me well into plus money. I have the Dodgers bouncing back after some tough losses to Milwaukee. Cardinals offense has been really quiet lately. I like the pitching matchup for them. So anyway, those are our picks. And for BetMGM customers, we have the jackpot promotion. Bet for a shot at 50,000 in bonus bets. You put down a bet $10 or more on any player to hit a home run on a weekend day, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And if you get a grand slam out of that homer, you can win the $50,000 daily prize or a share of the prize with every other winning better. If you have a home run pick, you got to go here. BetMGM is doing it better. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Be right back.
Stephen Kwan, home run pick.
Ooh, I like it.
Boom. Grand slam?
I like it. Aren't these conversations already happening? Like, didn't somebody say, hey, we want to go to the closest we can to beer league softball uniforms for all the greatest stars of our game, and then we're going to put in a splash of bright pink too?
Yeah, well, keep in mind, people took that answer as like, oh, they're going to change them back. I didn't take it that way at all. I mean, Scott, I don't know how you took it, but like, I've listened to Rob Manfred speak one too many times where like he said there will be conversations. Keep in mind, they're paying Nike or whoever it is, Fanatics, I don't even know at this point, to make these jerseys. So what are they going to do? They're going to turn their back on that money. They're going to have these companies make 30 different uniforms for each of these guys. I don't see that happening either. From a logistical and like they're trying to make money perspective, right? You want people to buy these uniforms. That's why they make these special uniforms. So I took it as like yeah, we'll talk about it. We know people hate it, but maybe it'll go away. I didn't take it as we're going to fix these uniforms. We know there's a problem. This to me was the most PC answer that I thought a lot of people took as hope that MLB would change it. And I don't see any signs pointing to MLB changing it unless they work out a deal where they either stop this sponsorship with Nike and they give up the money to go back to their old ways again. Like, what is the incentive? As AJ said, it is always about the money. And I don't know how they're going to make money here if they say, yeah, go back and wear your old uniforms. It's fine. Let's go back to the nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. I mean, we're putting ads on and patches on uniforms now, but we think we're going to go back to the nostalgia of it all. I just have a hard time with that.
Players weekend coming up. Kratz hats, you can show off what you have because then every player is going to show off their fancy numbers on their caps this weekend.
Super fancy, so custom. Man, good job. Baseball. I figure Weston Wilson's on. Why not mix in the Sunday Phillies hat? They wear these with the nice off-white unis.
Very, very crisp, very solid. We can show off that Jackson Merrill bat. Kip's bringing up some show and tell too from Players Weekend. Let's see.
We got Thor. We got an Avengers cleats that we put on.
Ooh.
Let's see.
Nice.
With big Marvel guy.
Nice.
So
but you could wear those every day now. You can wear those every day. So Players Weekend, it's like cool. We're gonna give you the Players Weekend, and we're actually gonna stronghold it on you.
Can you do this bat any day?
No,
I don't. Yeah, no.
So
I'm trying. There's some awesome ones. I think they're great. Oh man.
Yeah, that'll play. Good job, Jackson.
Our producer today, Jer, he came up with a really good idea. What if somebody came up with a bat where you hit it and you can see on the bat, like if the bat is black, it turns orange where the ball is hit. And I mean, as he said it, I was like, man, I would never want anybody to know where I just hit the ball.
Yeah.
Like too close to the label. Don't want to show them I just got jammed.
There's some cool ideas. It's fun. I like that they do it. But yeah, you see the line's already being raised for how much they can shoot and bad stuff.
Very true. Very true.
Here's your playoff weekend. Yeah. Here's your playoff weekend, and here's your handcuffs too. We're gonna keep handcuffing you, but here's your playoff weekend. Thank
Players.
You, yeah.
Players weekend. You said playoffs. Playoffs.
Playoff.
One show.